Hi, I'm RT,
And I'm Tyler.
and this is Custer Wolfe Building a Watch Company.
Today we're talking about our new sister brand, the Mechanical Products Company.
So, the Mechanical Products Company.
Well, it's very different than what we're doing right now.
Yes.
It is a fully modern watch that has our name on the front. And it's something we've been talking about doing for quite some time.
It's kind of a big deal,
Um,
except it's going to be smaller.
yeah, I mean, do you want to start by just explaining exactly what it is versus what we're doing now?
Yeah, maybe we start with the business, like the business model change. So we've been asked by our investors, our customers, just like anyone on the street, like, first of all, why are you taking pocket watches and turning them into wristwatches? That seems like a highly unscalable business. But the question has been, can we scale it? And I think we can both agree, we've tried.
Yeah.
We've done everything we possibly can to try to figure out how to make more than like 500 pocket watches into wristwatches in a single year. And we actually, over the last couple of years, we've reduced the quantity down to, I think 2021, we made, maybe barely 400 total units of watches. And that's just where Vortic Watch Company, in terms of our pocket watch conversions, needs to be. And we've been trying to put a square peg in a round hole for the last 3 or 4 years, trying to scale that thing. And at some point, you and I had a bunch of hard conversations. We had some of those conversations with our investors and advisors, bankers, just like, hey, you said you were going to scale this thing, and we tried. And very recently, we decided, hey, let's just go quality over quantity. Let's make roughly 400 watches a year as the Vortic brand. We'll make the best pocket watch conversion in the world and just own that niche incomplete, and just, build a machine, is the way we described it in like the business plan, and say that's a business in itself. Nothing's going to change with Vortic Watch Company as you all know it right now. We're just going to make 400 of the best pocket watch conversions a year-ish as we possibly can. They sell really quickly, so don't touch it, right? Set it over here. Mm-hmm. And if we want to scale, let's just build a whole nother watch company. And that's really where the idea for something else that we've just been calling it a sister brand in the business plan for a long time. And that's building a watch company. That's the company that we're building, and we call it the Mechanical Products Company.
Yeah, and I think it's good to add some context to that in terms of what we're doing with Vortic. Vortic isn't just something we're not going to pay attention to anymore. It's just the way that we put time and energy into it is going to change a little bit. We're going to more focus on things we want to do and just kind of making the most awesome things that we can, and not worrying about scaling up or, a lot of the things that we're thinking about when it comes to mechanical.
Yeah, 100%. And that's been the trying to scale that brand has been the cause of almost losing everything multiple times. Like the watch builder is a good example, right? Like we at one holiday season we sold like 100 custom watches in a few days. And it was like, that's going to take 6 months to build. And so we just kept shooting ourselves in the foot, trying to scale it. And now, like you said, I like that way of thinking about it. Like we're giving it the same amount of energy and focus. It's just a different type of energy.
Yeah, we'll still be adding on to those product lines and doing really cool stuff with that brand. It's just, we know that we're not trying to build more than 400 watches a year.
And that's great.
I would almost describe the way that I'm curious if you agree with this statement, that we almost had a certain amount of denial about what our company was, what we wanted it to be, and what it was.
Yeah.
Because, when we started this thing, we wanted to build a large company.
Yep.
And it's turned into this kind of niche brand that is, I think cooler than we envisioned,
100%.
but different than what we envisioned.
Way different.
So I think there was a certain amount of denial that we had as we were going through this thing. And I think another aspect of why we're so excited to do this new brand is also just legacy,
Yeah.
Outside of money and success, this is just our name going on front of a product that is more accessible to like us. We're building it for us and for people that we know. It's something that I've wanted for a long time, an American-made, rugged, classy, authentic timepiece that I can afford. Mm-hmm. And it's going to have our name on the front. We're going to make the dial. We're going to control every aspect of it. So I think that's scary and also really exciting at the same time.
Yep. And I agree with everything you just said. And that's really the whole point of this Custer and Wolfe show is, when we first had this idea and we told our friends and investors and advisors and everyone, like, hey, we're going to make a fully modern watch. We're going to take on Shinola for the title of like the American watch company, right? Like that was how I was trying to describe it. And the feedback we got initially was like, okay, but like, how are you going to make it different? And that was another, like, I don't know if denial is the right word for that, but see if you agree with this, is like, I internalized that a lot, and I was worried. Like, I was just like, okay, that's fair. Like, how are we going to make it different? Like, how do we make a modern watch and have it not look like and feel like a Shinola or a Weiss or, one of our competitors, or have it look like one of the huge Swiss brands, or even if it does, like, how do we sell that? And then we started talking about doing the show, and it's just like, first of all, to your point, we're going to make what we would wear. Like, we're making these products for us, for our team, for our friends. Like, we're going to make a really multiple different products, but products that we would actually use, that we really love, things that we're passionate about. And yeah, they might have a similar style to other things that are in existence, but they're inspired by us. They're not inspired by other things. And then what makes them more different and what makes us more different is that we're going to have the cameras on the whole time. We're going to show you every single step of the entire process of how we make these watches, and how we build this company. And I think that's what separates us, because the Swiss brands don't do that. Like, the big companies, they don't have cameras following around everywhere. And that's a unique thing that we can do. And people love that. Like, people just want to see how it's made. So we're going to show them.
Yeah, and honestly, I said this a lot when we were talking about doing this show, is one of the biggest reasons I wanted to have cameras on more often is because who we are as a company is very authentic. You can dig as deep as you want to go, and you're not going to find anything that's off brand.
Right, yeah.
We actually do everything we say we do, and we actually make everything. So we think that if you have a closer look into our process and how we make our parts, how we build our watches, that you're going to want them even more because you have a connection with that process and they're doing it right.
Yep.
And another thing I wanted to mention quickly before we move on is just the origin of the name, Mechanical Products.
Yep.
This is something we've been talking about for quite some time.
Yeah, because I hated it at first.
And it's all my name, and I've been lobbying hard. But so first of all, there's just the aspect of this new brand that we want to keep our options open to make other everyday carry items, things like pens, flashlights, knives, things of that nature.
Yep.
That's not really on the top of our mind right now. Right now, we're just making watches.
But someday.
But the reason that I am passionate about the name Mechanical Products is because I really wanted a name that represented who we are and what we do. And I cannot think of a better word, even though maybe it's straightforward to a lot of people when it comes to mechanical watches. But I can't think of a better word that just so accurately describes us and who we are. It's mechanical. We don't use batteries. We rely on perfection and engineering to achieve awesome products. And I think that's just, for me, I wanted a name that resonated with who we are and what we do. And I think at its core, what we do is make mechanical products.
That's all we do.
You know, I don't really think we have to think too deeply about it, but it was important to me to have a name that represented what we do.
Yep.
So that's kind of why we called it Mechanical Products. And we're kind of slowly developing that story and that brand and that logo. And it's part of where we're at right now.
Yeah, and we'll show you the whole behind the scenes, logo iterations, brand colors, the first prototypes of all the new products. That'll all show up on this YouTube show. And I mean, it's going to be really exciting. And yeah, I was just against the name at first because it's so broad. I was just wondering, like, can we trademark that and all that stuff? And I think I just had the realization after talking it through with you and hearing basically what you just said so many times that it's just like, it doesn't really matter what we call it. It doesn't matter the logo that's on the front. And Vortic is the absolute epitome of why, right? Like, people, when they're like, oh, you run that like Vortec watch, like, it doesn't matter what the company's name is. They know us for what we do and who we are and what we stand for as Vortic right now. And there's no reason we can't build that for any new company we decide to build, especially if we put the whole thing on the internet. Because to your point, people will just see it and they'll be like, that's really cool. I kind of want one of those things.
Yeah, and I think Mechanical is going to be a sweet company. I think it's going to be a really cool name, and as it develops, like Apple, it doesn't feel like something special or fancy, but now we know it as a really well-developed brand. It kind of does fit. So we'll kind of see how that goes.
Absolutely.
But I guess as we've been developing this show and Vortic, now that we've decided to go full steam ahead with this new brand, I think we wanted to talk about how our plan has changed,
Right. Yeah, because if we were just, there was an option to just say, all right, Vortic makes 400 watches a year. We have this many employees. We have this much overhead. We have a smaller building. We have less machines. And we just rinse and repeat, and we just do that for the next decade, and that's cool. Like, there's nothing wrong with having a small business. That business is profitable. It's a very sustainable business. And so we talked about that. Like, hey, we could kick our feet up and relax for a little while, and just kind of let the machine work, or we could go way deeper in the rabbit hole. Go millions of dollars in debt and get after it. And, we're crazy. So we went with that latter option, and here we are.
So what did we buy?
So we bought a whole bunch of stuff, starting with the building, right? Like some of the next episodes, you'll see the building coming together. There's drywall going up right now, super exciting. The next time we film in this room, there'll probably be machines like we'll have to move this desk, which is super exciting. Basically a month from now, this room will be full of machines.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen our other episodes, we are currently sitting in what will be our future machine shop.
Yep. So that's awesome. So we had to bring in a bunch of machines. We had to get almost 3 times the square footage. And we need more people. We have 3 open jobs. Please go apply for our jobs on the website. Just look for careers. It's all that kind of stuff. I mean, once we build the foundation, once we have the machines, we have the prototypes, we have the right people, then we're gonna raise money. We're gonna need a round of equity financing. I just asked you if we could go on Shark Tank, so it's a future conversation. Like big stuff like that is gonna happen, and then once we're like ready to market, then we'll pour on the fuel and turn on the marketing engine and honestly do some like real advertising for the first time in Vortic's history.
Yeah, what would you say is like either the biggest difference or the thing you're most excited about for mechanical versus Vortic in terms of the marketing?
Transparently, I'm excited for you to give me something that doesn't have a limit on how many units I can sell. Because
I'm excited for that too.
because that's what's been so hard for me. It's just like, okay, we build all these systems and we make one watch a day and they sell themselves. Like the website sells the watches. Like I feel in some ways that my job is easy, and that's really cool. But I like the idea of the challenge of like, okay, you can make 1,000 of these mechanical product watches. But you could make 1,000 a month at some point, and that means I can sell as many as I want.
Soon, but
yeah, not soon, but like, you know what I mean? Like that's what I'm excited for. Yeah,
right.
To answer your question, yeah.
Yeah, and actually that reminds me, I don't know if we actually mentioned the largest challenge in building Vortic's products right now, and that is the pocket watch movements themselves.
Yeah, that's why.
Every single watch that we make currently for Vortic is one of a kind. I just want to make sure we make that distinction really clear. Every watch that we make for Vortic is one of a kind using an antique pocket watch movement that we need to restore. That's anywhere from 80 to 110 years old.
And there's probably 15 humans in the United States that know how to like properly restore an antique American pocket watch to the level that we want it, and we employ like 4 or 5 of them. Mm-hmm. So,
and we
skilled
have
trade gap to the definition.
An insanely awesome and complicated system for making a different watch case for each different model of these old antique movements that we've created, which is really cool, but it's very difficult to scale. Each individual model within Elgin or Illinois or Hamilton of these old pocket watch brands needs specific engineering on the back end and programming for the machines and somebody to make those parts. We got to keep them in stock, and our assemblers need to know how to handle all these different scenarios and models, and it becomes this network of complexity that it's not linear, so it doesn't always move in a straight line. Mm-hmm. We're restoring old cars. We're not building new on a production line, and that's really the major difference.
For sure, yeah, and that's for me that was depressing in some ways, because it's just like I told our investors that we could scale faster because I thought we could, and so it just like that was almost sad that we decided to just kind of plateau and just keep roughly 400 a year. But now, like I think about it from our customer standpoint, and how cool is it that when a customer buys a watch, they have one of maybe 400 units that are made in a single year. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like our customers are part of this really cool like club of people that have a Vortic watch. And that kind of branding is almost impossible to build. It took almost a decade for us to figure that out. But that's really cool. So there's nothing wrong with that. There's actually everything right with that. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. And so we're gonna take out that energy of like, let's go bigger, let's go faster on a different company, all under the Vortic, parent company, basically.
Yeah, I think a big part of this evolution of us and the company is expectations versus reality. And I think
I'm just laughing because we've had so many conversations like that, like the I'll be happy when,
Exactly. Our expectations of Vortic were a lot different than what ended up happening. Yeah. But in reality, it's an awesome company, but we've got more to share, and that's why we're starting this new brand.
For sure.
So where are we at today in terms of our new brand?
Yeah. Well,
what's done and what's not done?
I think saying the name on YouTube is probably one step towards getting the trademark. We have the trademark in process, so hopefully that's helpful. We are going to start working on logo concepts, branding concepts, which we'll share. That's going to be really fun. And then, last time we spoke about it, you were basically trying to standardize all your work systems for Vortic so that you could hand them off to the team, and you could spend sometime, in the next month or so, you can switch and be 100% on mechanical products, mm-hmm. R&D, making the prototypes, testing stuff, figuring out the automations, and all that kind of stuff.
Yep. Yeah, if you've been following along on my Instagram, I've been posting a lot about just kind of bringing the current machinery into its final form for Vortic and getting everything in such a good place that I feel comfortable handing it off, at least partially, so I can spend almost all of my time learning some of our new equipment, the 5-axis machine that we have, and making prototypes for the new product. And we also bought a building and a couple new machines. And
it's happening. That's what I was saying. Maybe
we sourced a movement.
We found.
We have movements on order right now.
Yeah. There's a really cool company that we met. Years ago, we started talking to them. But Fine Timepiece Solutions in Fountain Hills, Arizona. They currently make the only American-made quartz movement, and they just recently, very recently, announced and are manufacturing mechanical movements in the United States as best as they can. And for those that we can probably do a whole episode on American made, and we probably should.
Right.
But
that's a good idea.
They are bringing in parts for the movement. Let's say, how many parts are in a movement? 100? Something like that?
In a modern automatic?
Yeah.
It's bad that I don't know this, but probably 150 to 200.
Somebody will comment with a very specific number, I'm sure.
There's 100 in a pocket watch, I think.
Yeah. So let's say there's 100 parts, gears, springs, screws, all that kind of stuff in a modern automatic movement. Most of those parts are being imported from overseas and assembled in Arizona for us. Over the next 5 to 10 years, more and more of those parts will be made here, presumably, just for sustainability of the business model. And so the mechanical products company will use those movements that are as American made as we can get currently. And then the mechanical products company will become more and more American made over the next 5 to 10 years as I think they call it onshoring. And we'll continue to do the absolute best that we can. But it's less about where it's made and way more about how it's made. And that's why we have the cameras on, because we're going to show you everything and why and how hard it is to make some of these parts. So I feel like that's part of our journey, is showcasing that.
Yeah, there's nobody making a production movement in the United States. Let's be clear about that. That doesn't exist. So
Period.
this is our single best option to get the most American made that we can for production mechanical movement. And they're really good quality movements. The parts are sourced from around the world, and the assembly is done in Fountain Hills, Arizona. We've been to their clean room. We've met everybody there. They're very excited about what we're doing, and we're very excited about what they're doing. Their ethos and what they're going for is in the same place as us. So we're really excited about partnering with them. But assembling the parts after you get them, I would say is just as difficult as manufacturing those parts. The jigs and
precision is insane.
It's really impressive. Just the assembly of these things is a real huge task. So hats off to those guys for what they're doing, and we're excited to start working with them.
So that's, we got all this new equipment coming in so that we can make, we'll source the movement from FTS, and then we'll manufacture as many of the other components as we can here. And then we'll do final product assembly here in this building, and obviously customer service, logistics, all that kind of stuff here as well, for both Vortic and mechanical products, all right here. And yeah, let's talk timeline, because we won't have anything to show for a while. It takes a long time to build a watch company. That's part of the reason for the show. But what are your next steps in R&D and prototyping of products, and when do you think we'll be able to show something on the show?
Yeah, so we bought a couple machines that are very different than what we have right now. So it's been our goal since the beginning of the year to get to a place where I can put the majority of my time on mechanical products by the end of March. That has come and gone, but I think we're
Yeah,
still on track
mid-April.
to start by the end of April. So that's really exciting, and I think we're really there. In about a week or two, I will switch my focus full time to learning how to use this new machine. The machine will be in here in 1 week from yesterday.
And we're going to do a video on like what is a CNC machine,
Yep.
which will be really cool because we get that question a lot. So look out for that.
Yep. And really, that's the start of the design process. We've been talking and thinking about this product for a long time, and I have a vision in my head, but I haven't had time to actually sit down and start designing this thing. So currently, this thing is mostly up here and up there.
And you'll see as we do this, we do things a lot differently than like the big companies do. You know, most of the big, like especially Swiss companies, they'll come out with like Photoshop renderings, like a 3D rendering of like, here's what the product is, and they'll come out with that months before it even exists. And we not only just really don't have the capabilities to produce things like that, but we feel like that's kind of a waste of time. We just want to go. We're the mechanical products company. We're going to go straight to metal. And when you make something that we can hold and show to the camera, then you'll see it. We're not going to show off any kind of 3D stuff because there's really no point. We have to figure out how to make it, so we might as well just start with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'd say, what's the goal? To have a prototype in hand in the next 3 to 5 months? Can we talk about Red Rocks and how we're planning to do that?
I mean, you know, I'm going to call Brian again today and see if we can get a signature on the contract, but it is public knowledge that Vortic Watch Company is the official timekeeper of Red Rocks Amphitheater. We've had an ongoing contract with them for a while. Everyone that gets inducted into the Hall of Fame of Red Rocks gets a custom Vortic watch, and we are one of the other like business plan goals for a mechanical products company is to be a private label manufacturer. And so Red Rocks is a great example. So we're going to make the Red Rocks watch. And so when you're in the stadium at Red Rocks and you go down to the trading post, you'll be able to buy a Red Rocks watch there or on our website with the official partnership. Hopefully by the end of this year is the goal. And we're going to use that as like our first test of all of these new systems and processes, and that'll be the first mechanical product is the Red Rocks watch. And then you'll start working on some of our more core products, which I'm really excited about. That's really, again, we're trying to make things that we want, right? We want a Red Rocks watch. I do, for sure. Like, that's gonna be awesome.
They're gonna be cool.
You know, the stuff that you're working on for you is dope, but not my taste per se in like an everyday watch. And so once you finish yours, you're gonna build one that's more like what I'm after, which we shouldn't talk about yet because like you gotta save some surprise. And then as you're building those, I'm gonna use the Red Rocks partnership as a case study to go pitch big brands and say, hey, let's make 100 or 500 units of your brand's mechanical watch. A very high quality private label brand is kind of what we're after.
Yeah, more like partnerships than just supplier.
Yep.
You know, we want to co-brand and we want to be part of the process and film and build a story more than just a watch.
Yep. So that's the vision, because most, I think there's a problem in that private label industry where most people that go and build a private label watch, they're just buying something off the shelf and slapping a logo on it, and it's $200 retail price. We'll never be able to get to that price point. Like, that's unachievable. We got to be closer to $1,000. And I'm saying that now in April. Who knows what inflation does, right? Like, here we are. But that's really the business plan is, keep Vortic as it is. It's awesome. Don't touch it. Mechanical products, so make only the products that we really love, and we'll scale the heck out of that. And then we'll also have like a private label division of private label / maybe we'll call it partnerships instead of private label. I like that. But we'll do partnerships with companies and make watches under other people's brands in partnership. So yeah, timeline wise, I mean, a few months until hopefully we're looking at prototypes by the end of the year for some of those first projects. And then as soon as I'm holding a prototype, I'll be able to go pitch investors to do another round of like, okay, we're going to go big. So let's go big.
Yeah, I think
So that'll be
our
exciting.
baseline goal is have sellable products by the end of the year.
Yep.
I think we'd like to be ahead of that, but that is what we need to achieve.
Let's set an achievable goal
Yep.
for maybe the first time.
Yeah, that's not a strength for us.
But we're learning. You know, it took us a while, but we're totally learning how to do this now. So yeah, I mean, that's the Mechanical Products Company. That's the story behind, you know, the sister brand is what we've been calling it publicly for a while. And yeah, we can't wait to show you what's next.
Yeah, I guess that's it for episode 7 of Custer and Wolfe, Building a Watch Company. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram, and head to our website if you want to sign up for our newsletter list.
And we'll
Thanks for watching.
See you next time.